And we're plugged in with Maura Collins. Hi.
Hi.
Hey, guys.
Hi, Ernest. Hi, Melissa.
Hello.
How are you, Maura?
I got them to come back for part 2. I'm doing good. How you guys feeling?
Good.
Good. Nervous. Good.
Don't be nervous.
Gotta admit it.
Really?
Yeah.
Is it because we're revisiting? Or why are you nervous?
I think it's the same thing every time you get to come in front of a live audience. And it is the wanting to represent well and wanting to still be accepted and do the right thing and help people. And do I have anything to offer? You know, that type deal. So when I admit that that's how I feel inside, usually it helps calm things because I'm being honest about it.
He's like a cool cat. What do you think, Melissa? Are you nervous or?
No.
She's confident.
Not yet.
Not yet?
I'm just, yeah. I just think of it as us conversating like we usually do. I don't think about anything else, and I try to keep it like that.
So you guys survived the summer with your kids? What was that like? Look at Melissa's face. She's like, I'm so glad they're in school.
It was good. I had my son in summer camp, so he loved it. He did they do so much there. He did a lot of activities. They had a field trip every week. They went to Adventure Island. They went to the baseball game. So he had a blast. This summer was actually smooth for me.
What about you, Ernest?
My summer was pretty awesome. Jaden, he actually still does before and after care, but he went to kindergarten this year. So over the summer, we had an opportunity to do a lot of activities. He's extremely active. So we do amusement parks. We do four-wheeling, dirt biking, hoverboarding, fishing. So I keep him relatively active because I still have the belief that idle time is the devil's playground. So we keep him active.
That's awesome. So how do schedules change in the school year? What's the routine like? Is it different than the summer?
For me, the only difference is bedtime, because he still does schoolwork throughout the summer. I don't want him. I personally don't see Jaden getting lax over the summer and then have to relearn everything. So we try to keep him focused and staying on top of the schoolwork. So we actually go out and get books and various academic activities to keep him relatively active. Now he's allowed to stay up a little bit later over the summer because he goes into school later and there's nothing to do the next day. But during the school year now, there's a routine where he's in bed at a specific time. During the school week, you have school clothes, you have school play clothes. You eat at a certain time, you do your homework when you come home, you get out your school clothes when you walk in the door. So there's a different routine that he's accustomed to having a routine. It's just the shift in a few things that makes the difference between summer and school.
Yeah.
What about you, Melissa?
I would say that I was probably more laxed during the summertime, like when he ate, if he stayed up a little bit later than normal time, but he has medication he has to take, so he takes his meds every night at 8 o'clock, so he usually can't stay up too much later, after that. If I would let him stay up late so he can play video games because it's the weekend or whatever, then I would just not make him take it until later is what I would do. But, as far as routine goes, the summertime, I let him be a little bit more lax. He had a workbook that his teacher gave him to keep him up on, all of the schoolwork he did all year long because he has ADHD, and I kind of wanted to keep his brain in that pattern. So we would do a page or two, probably every 3 days a week. I wasn't too hard on him. Last year, he worked really hard last year, and he got on roll for the whole year, and he was a failing student. So, and he did excellent. He blew it out of the water. So when it came to the summertime, I wanted him to understand that summer is a break from school, and that, you did a good job, and to have fun, enjoy your childhood also, because like right now, it's school, come home, homework, dinner, whether it's me, my mom. You know, a lot of times we're going to a meeting and he's doing homework there. And then, you know, pretty much go to bed. He only gets about an hour of playtime now. So he works really hard for that summer break. You know what I mean?
That's great. I've heard a few teachers had told me that a child's performance or attitude and how well they do is a reflection of the way they're parented. Do you think your recovery has a lot to do with how your kids behave? Or, I mean, how would you do this if you weren't clean? It would be hard, huh?
I wouldn't. I didn't do it. I gave that responsibility up to his father, her father, really his father, and had my mom had to step in. So I wasn't able to do it then, but I can say okay, so this is how I can explain my household. We all have diseases. Riley has a rare genetic disease. Junior has a behavioral diagnosis, and I have my own disease, right? So every day, all of us have to treat it, whether it's vitamins, holistic medications, you know, or, you know, therapies. We're all in therapy of some sort. My meetings. So, like, I kind of like, you know, and we're a team, and I kind of treat it all the same. But my recovery has definitely directly affected my children. We have all gone forward in life together. You know, when I recovered, so did they. My son was a failing student. They held him back in kindergarten. I was getting him every Tuesdays and weekends, and when I was ripping and rubbing, my mom would be the one that would get him. And the other half was with his dad, who is a tattoo artist and who wasn't as stable either, right? So he had no stability and no routine in his life. He also lived on a phone because he grew up in a tattoo shop, right? So he didn't have any of that. And as of 2 years ago, I got full custody of him, and I was able to get that routine in his life. And his diagnosis, he was on medication for it. I took him off during the summer to practice him off of it. I kept him off to start the school year, and his teacher's been messaging me every day, and she's like, I would never know he has this diagnosis if you didn't tell me. So routine and, you know, structure and just having consistency in their life, even one parent, like, is a game changer for them. And his therapist told me over and over again, this is all going to change, Melissa. Him being there full time, everything's going to change. So it definitely has.
Ernest, you see that success as well, just because you're so organized, you're a hands-on dad. I mean, you do so much for your son and you balance your recovery so well. How does that help, having that routine?
I can say that without recovery, this is not a conversation.
Right.
It's really that simple.
Right.
So recovery is what allows me to be able to say the things and do the things that I'm able to sit here and say and do. So without it, you know, there is no involved dad. That does not exist. However, in my realm, what it's helped me with is I have adult children who watch me in active addiction, which is why I know that without recovery, this is not a conversation. So in any event, today I have a lot more patience, a lot more understanding. I'm a lot more tolerant of him being a child, and that patience allows me to, because at one point in time when my adult kids were young, when I said something, I only said it once. Anything beyond one time came with discipline. And today I understand that there's a developmental stage that takes place that, you know, I have to explain and teach in order for a child to understand. And what recovery allows me to do is to have the awareness of that, to have the awareness that, hey, you know what? Okay, when I tell him, okay, when you take your clothes off, put them in the dirty clothes. Don't kick them off with your feet around the house, and then dad has to clean them up. So I may have to tell him that until he's 10, 12 years old. At one point in time, there was consequences after I told you the first time. Well, now I don't mind telling him each time to pick him up, because he picks them up. It's not that he's rebellious. He's a kid. And he's a kid that's learning, just like I'm an adult still learning. So it's allowed me the ability to be aware of that and to structure him differently than I did my adult kids. My adult kids are successful. I'm grateful for that. However, even they look at me and they look at Jaden and they say, man, he'd have never allowed us to get away with that when we were kids, which is a true statement. It's a true statement. I would have never allowed him to get away with it. But recovery has allowed me to be able to handle things differently. I see that there's another way. I have a choice today. Whereas though back then I thought that because of the way I was raised, I had to raise my adult kids the exact same way. And that's a fallacy. That's not the truth. So Jaden and I hold a lot more conversations, and his comprehension of what his responsibilities are as a 5-year-old. He's more clear with that. So it allows me to lend to him some clarity and awareness about what his responsibilities are. And that's all as a direct result of recovery.
Mm-hmm. That's awesome feedback. I think that when I meet people that are newly clean and, they're in a meeting and they're talking or whatever, in whatever fellowship they're in, they're always like, well, I'm here and I just want to stay clean because I want my kids, and they took my kids, and my kids, and they want to rush the process. They don't want to have to go through the reunification. They think DCF's the bad guy when really, they really want what's best for the children to be with the parents, because they do a lot of good things. I feel like a lot of people I meet in recovery just want to focus on the kids, but rush their process and not really be in recovery, just kind of, staying clean to get their kids back, which we all know is like a rinse and repeat cycle, because you're just going to keep going back and back and back, because you're just getting, like a sponsor on paper. You're not really working steps. You're not really participating. So did it take you guys a little patience to be able to take care of your children clean? And can you speak to how people that are newly getting clean that aren't with their children, what they should take for some advice?
Hindsight, we all wish we had it. I do know, unfortunately, for addicts, when we come into recovery, it's usually the most pain I've ever felt in my life is when my child was hurt or taken from me, right? Unfortunately, the pain didn't come from what I had done to myself. My self-esteem wasn't even good enough to feel that yet, right? So I feel like they think that is going to make them feel better, and as we all know, if we don't treat our addiction first, it doesn't matter. We're not going to be able to keep them. It's just how it goes, I think for new people that come in, especially women, I know a lot of new women when they come in, most of them, 80% of them have children, and want to amend those relationships, however, for whatever reason or whatever happened. I know this last time coming back, I didn't have an opportunity to go into detox or rehab, or I didn't get not a day from being a mom, running a household by myself and going to work. Not one day did I get for that. So I wish I did. I wanted to set my situation up to where I could go into somewhere and take care of me, and give myself some time, and just to kind of get myself grounded. And I didn't get that opportunity this time, and I really wish I did. So for anybody that has that opportunity, the best thing that you could ever do for yourself or those children is to take care of yourself first, taking a break from that, because that, if you continue to hold on to those things and you don't put your recovery first, as we all know, we just lose it anyways. Doesn't matter. It doesn't discriminate. We just lost a friend who had 4 children just the other day, So that's what I would tell them.
That's good. What about you, Ernest? Do you have anything else you want to add?
I'm going to agree and piggyback. My situation is that I was very fortunate. My kids had responsible mothers, and they still do today. So I was blessed enough to be able to focus on my recovery and not necessarily have to spend the attention on having to go through a parenting plan or some reunification. I was blessed enough to have had mothers that were involved that understood what I needed to do and wanted to also see the best, not for just my kids, but for myself. So I was blessed in that manner. However, what I'd like to add to that is that recovery has to come first. And not only does it need to come first, but it needs to come in front of everything, children included. And the reason why I make that statement is because our recovery is what keeps us clean and keeps us productive members of society, that keeps us good friends, good parents, good kids of our parents, you know. And without it, we just go back to the people that came in here. And that's not something that we want to do. So when we come in, what I will offer those that are new is please focus on yourself, because your kid's not going to keep you clean. Prison's not going to keep you clean. Overdosing's not going to keep you clean. None of that's going to keep you clean. If you're not doing it for self, it's just not going to last. It can happen temporarily. As a matter of fact, I'll even go as far as to say, it doesn't matter what you come into a recovery program for. If the jails made you come in here, okay. If your kids made you come in here, okay. If you chased a relationship in recovery, that's okay. But at some point in time, before that lapses, it better be about self. It better convert to, I'm doing this for me and not for any other reason other than me. Because if it's for any other reason, it just won't last.
That's awesome. So what do you do for self-care to make yourself a better parent outside of your recovery that you work? Do you guys have like, maybe you're like in a mother or father group, or you talk to other parents in recovery? Do you have like little tricks of the trade? Come on. There's got to be some success.
Yeah, we go to the gym.
The gym.
I am fortunate that I am a 5-time parent.
He doesn't need group.
5.
So I have a little bit of
professional
experience.
daddy.
I'm like, I have like a PhD in parenting right now.
That's funny.
I have been raising kids up to this point for 38 years.
Oh, wow.
Okay.
He had kids when he was 10.
Alive.
Yeah, it's you know, I'm fortunate.
Right.
In our last episode, I have a police officer, a lawyer, a director, and an RN. And they're all girls, and the baby is a boy. So I'm fortunate enough to have enough experience. But I will say this: my experience came from talking to other parents whose children were doing things that I wanted. I had ambitions of my own kids doing.
Right.
And even with a boy, that's different. And even with having a child later on in life, because I'm an older dad, I'm like, my son's in T-ball, and when I go to the T-ball field, I'm the grandfather on the field. I have a 5-year-old, and all the other 5-year-olds' parents are in their 30s. I'm in my 50s. So I still try to stay in a learning state regardless of my age.
Just trying to keep up.
I don't want to be that old dog who can't learn new tricks.
Right.
So I try to stay up with the times by talking to my adult kids who, you know, I have a couple of grandkids that are older than my son.
Wow. It's like role reversal. He's got his kids telling him how to bring up. Oh, man. They're taking care of him now, right?
It's helpful, though.
It should be that way. It's like a two-way street, like sponsorship in Ernest's blended family.
That's absolutely. Awesome. So I try to make sure that, like that whole all birds fly the same flock type deal. So let's get around like-minded people, if you will. Because if I'm being honest here, I don't have my kid around everybody's kid. I personally don't, because I don't like the behavior of every kid that I see. Some kids, I'm like, I don't want that influence on mine.
Absolutely.
Because my kid is like a sponge, and he repeats and mimics some things not only in context, but at the most inopportune times.
Right.
So I make sure
a
that
kid.
what he's learning and what he's around kind of helps shapes his thought process when I'm not around.
So that is going to make him an incredible teenager, because my kids are 16 and 13. Ryan lives with my parents in Massachusetts, and Michael lives here with me. And I've always kept more. Michael has been more, under my roof. Never spent a day apart. Thank you, God. Thanks to recovery. And I think that all the close attention that me and Owen spent through staying clean on him and teaching him it's not right to make fun of children. It's not right to swear. It's not right to spit in the playground. And he was little and probably thought I was keeping him in a bubble. But now, the school called and had him do the orientation at middle school. Like, he was a standout kid. And he's in the top 5 of his middle school. Like,
wow.
But that's him.
He's a
it's
good kid.
It's reflection. It's recovery.
Mm-hmm.
He's the one that said, "Mama, you relapsed. Let's go to a meeting. Let's, give someone a call and have them meet us there." And, him and that man, they both saved me. I got a second chance. And when I became, clean the first time and I had 10 years, at the beginning, I was like, oh, it's all about me getting Ryan back under my roof. But then I realized like how well adjusted he is, and how I had to look out for the child. And now he's going to be in college in a couple of years, and he has the freedom to come to Florida or stay in Boston, whatever he wants to do. So like, one thing I wanted to talk to you guys about that I'm struggling with, is technology. My therapist was telling me about like 5G and how it can affect kids, and make too much screen time can make them have future possible psychological issues or issues at school and stuff like that. And I find my kids very into their iPhone a lot, and I tell them how we have to limit the screen time, especially before bed, because you should wind down for an hour and all that. It makes them irritable to be on the phone for a long period of time. They're distracted. They're not listening when we're telling them to do this, this, and this. And, are you guys experiencing these things with your kids and the phone? All right, come on, help me out. Ernest is like, yep, I'm snatching that right from his hands.
Let me make this statement.
It's not a babysitter, electronics.
What recovery has done for me is recovery has allotted me an opportunity to better myself, because it's classified an inside job.
Right.
So I do what's known as a daily inventory, which is and I can do it anytime throughout the course of the day. Normally I do it closer to the end of my day to take a look at things that I could have improved on throughout the course of that day. And I'm talking about me personally. And when I make a decision that I'm trying to invest more marketing in my business, however, I spent an extra 30 minutes scrolling on TikTok. Okay, now that's just me personally.
And trying to be as good as them on video.
Right, and then I'm asking myself, well, why isn't business doing as well? Because if I take that 30 minutes a day and add that up at the end of the week, in a 5-day period, I'm talking about 2.5 hours that I invested scrolling on TikTok. So I had this inventory allowed me to see that. So I'm like, okay, I need to cut back on how often I'm actually picking up my own device, because I find that I am my son's greatest idol. So he looks to me as his mentor and as who he wants to be when he grows up. So if I'm picking up my device, it's giving him opportunity to pick up his. So when I put mine down and say, hey, let's interact with each other, let's do things together. You know what? At the end of the night, when we're supposed to be winding down, let's take the plates off the table and put them in the dishwasher. Let's just sweep the kitchen floor. Let's pick up the clothes that may have been sitting around the house. Let's straighten the pillows on the couch, and we make it fun. It might take us an hour to do that because we're too busy hitting each other with the pillows. However, what I'm finding is that I'm investing that time in him and redirecting him away from the electronics. So the example is being set by me. So if the only time he gets away with that is when I'm distracted, when I'm doing something, when I want to do something for me and I don't want to be bothered with him, then that's my babysitter. My babysitter is the electronics. So I had to get to a point where I didn't want that to be my babysitter, because the greatest investment I can make in my son is my time. It's not my money. It's the time that I invest in him. So I had to make a conscious decision through that daily inventory that I was going to invest more time in him. And by doing so, I find that he doesn't want to pick those devices up. Hey, Dad, come on, let's straighten the pillows up. The pillows look nice and neat. He want to straighten them up because he want to start. Yeah, he wants the pillow fight instead. You know what I mean? I have to recognize that even when I'm tired, because some days I'm 51. I'm tired easily, you know? So I'm like, okay, I'm going to do this for about 10, 15 minutes and somehow have to wind that down. But, you know, like the example starts within.
That's great. Man, I need to have my kids watch this part of the podcast so they can see that. What about you, Melissa? How you doing with the electronics at your house with all the kids?
I pick my battles. I allow him on his phone for meetings because I really don't want him to listen to it. And then at home, he's got some really cool... he just got a new job simulator. So there's different jobs on there, and he has virtual reality goggles. And he can actually, like, he's stuck on this mechanic thing because he loves cars anyways. Like, that's his obsession, is cars and trucks and tow trucks and customizing them and all that. So his new thing right now is building a car. So I have tried to eliminate it. That's not really realistic. So what I do now is when he is on them, the time is limited. That's for sure. I have to do that. And when he's on them, I try to steer him towards the stuff that's a little bit more educational and he's getting something out of it, you know? So I'm not aware of the 5G and how it's making people or making the kids, have issues or whatever. I guess I should probably do my research on that. I do know everybody is on 5G, so we're all in trouble anyways. But I can relate to what Ernest was saying about, when I'm on the phone. The difference though is, when I'm on the phone doing social stuff, a lot of that stuff, I'm not really with my son. He's usually at school or he's in his room and I'm in my room. When I'm on the phone in front of him or my daughter, it's usually for phone calls or for social reasons, for texting people, talking to people on the phone. And my son doesn't answer any text messages and he barely answers his phone. The only reason he uses his phone is to watch YouTube or play a game, So I'm trying to teach him that, I'm like, you don't even know what a phone is for. I pay for service for you and you don't use it. I don't want to pay for it. I want you to pick up some Wi-Fi, figure it out. You don't even message your grandma back. You don't. So I think, it's a struggle. I think it's every parent's struggle right now. I do know I make him earn his screen time. I used to have a point system with Junior. Now he's so good, I don't have to even write it on his dry erase board. Without me asking, he does whatever dishes are in the sink when he gets home. He makes sure his homework's done. He makes his bed in the morning. He also takes a shower, puts his pajamas on, and he has to do all of that to do it. So I don't have to ask for that. He used to have to check each thing off the board, and it was a point system, and they all had points, and he had to earn enough points to play on his game system or his PC. And now he knows that's what he has to do, so he just does it. They figure it out. And so I feel like as long as he's doing what he needs to, and I limit the screen time, he's in school all day long. When he gets home, there are things he needs to do on a daily basis. By the time he's done doing that, he only has an hour to play anything. So during the school year, it's easy. On the weekends, I try to keep him at my mom's house in a swimming pool or out in the, outside anywhere. He has an RC car. I try to figure out what it is he does like to do. What will keep you out of here? You know what I mean? It's so crazy how in my generation, you couldn't keep me in the house, like ever. It's crazy. But I don't know. Like if we had electronics like they do now, it probably would have been just like they are now. You know?
Right.
So.
I'm sending my kids to you guys. You know, remember that show Wife Swap? We could have Kid Swap.
Right.
Dude,
Sounds like Melissa has her kids down to like they do the dishes. I have to ask, can you empty the dishwasher? And it's like, Mom, seriously, Mom? I'm like, well, you want allowance, but you have like 5 basic chores that you have to do, and you make $10 a week. I never made anything like that, and I mean, I had to mow the lawn, take the dog out on a, walk the dog. We're talking clean the bathrooms when I was 10. Mm-hmm. Oh,
Yeah,
Mama,
I
that
did
is
that.
crazy. That's
I used to
like,
be able to do it all by the time I could do the whole entire lawn, weed whack, edge, rake. By the time I was probably 12 or 13, I can run an entire household. These kids have no idea.
I have a kid today that, like I'll ask him to turn off, like, hey, can you turn off the bathroom light? And he'll say, I didn't turn it on.
Ooh.
Oh, yeah.
Is that Jaden?
Yeah, he does that.
What?
really?
And I'll just look at him.
He did it. He left it on, or did you?
Sometimes it's me. Sometimes it's him. I don't know.
He's testing him.
However, I have to remind him, hey, look,
He's going to be the...
we're a team. And
We have an electric bill.
I talk about the team. We're a team.
That's what I try to do, too.
We're
That's what I try to do for Junior.
Let's tag. You're in. Your turn. Turn off the
team,
light.
yeah.
There you go.
Team effort.
I cooked dinner, Junior. I'm going to need you to do those dishes, buddy.
What's your chores, Dad?
Well, my kids know that there's consequences if they don't do their homework and stuff like that. And I'm kind of a pushover. Owen was a little bit he was good at it. He was better at the hard discipline than me. I was more like, everybody came to me. But now tonight on the way here, I'm driving to Tampa, and I said to my son something about, we do this co-parenting thing. So I said, you can go with your dad Friday night, and Saturday night you can come with me. Oh, well, why don't I want to be with you? And I said, well, there's going to be a dance thing. And he's like, well, Mama, we live together. We spend a lot of time together. And I said, no, we don't. You're in your room all the time. Oh, Mama, I have to have a life.
How old's Michael again?
13.
Oh, yeah.
So now it's like, I'm like, how are we really paying, spending time together if you're like in your room with the door shut? He only comes out if I call his name, which he knows he has to come out. Food, a meal's incorporated in something, or there's something on TV, like, and that's why I get into sports, and he rides a bike. So I'm thinking about getting a bike so we can ride around.
There you go.
I'm trying to find ways. I'm trying to think of what my parents did. I remember we used to just jump in the car and go to Dairy Queen on a Sunday night. And it was like exciting, like all that stuff we used to do, back in the 70s when Melissa wasn't born. And, like it was different because we were outside a lot more. And these kids are like
my soul was,
lazy
though.
kids.
My soul was born in the 70s.
Yeah, your soul.
Yeah,
my
see, we
skin.
played
Sweet
until the
Melissa
street
liked
lights
this
came on.
song.
That was my
When the street
purpose.
lights came on, be on the block.
That's when I had to be. My stepdad would do a whistle, one of those
Really?
things,
Still do
and I
that.
could hear
Oh
him
my God.
5 blocks away at my friend's house, which is the only house I would go to, and we would hear his whistle in her house.
Yeah.
I'd be like,
Yeah.
oh, gotta go.
I whistle and you can hear Jaden yell, "Coming!"
Oh my gosh.
And it reminds me of when the girls were little because I would whistle and you could hear them saying "coming," and you can hear the rest of the kids saying, "Drea, there's your dad,"
Yeah.
and they would just come. And discipline when I was a kid was, you got
Real.
we got beatings when I was a kid. It was the whole spoil the child.
Oh,
spare the
so
rod.
different.
Spare the rods.
It
But
was
I
bad.
found a new
No?
I grew up
way
by
of
that saying,
discipline.
actually.
It was
So-
different back then in the 70s.
It's
I mean, you could
changed.
do.
Yeah, you could get away with that. You can't get away with that.
One time I slammed my bedroom door. I slammed it so hard, and I was just mad. Like, imagine that. And my dad took the door off the hinges for like a couple weeks and just hung a sheet and took the license plates off my car. Like, he was legit mad.
See,
you know?
when they were kids, there was various types of discipline. Whereas though, You know, okay, you had the spankings, you had to stand in the corner, you take
Right.
devices. Well, once they get teenagers,
Grounding.
it becomes, groundings is mental warfare when
Right.
they get older. Well, I learned, okay, with Jayden, you know, I learned that today, this is my consequence. I'll talk you to death.
Oh, they don't want to hear it.
No, they don't want to
Yep.
hear it. I'll just talk to you until you
Poor
just.
Jayden.
We're no longer cool at that point.
Yeah. And that's a consequence now. Because now when Jayden does
Like
something,
a lecture?
yeah, I'll say, do you want to sit down and talk?
Like put them on the recliner or a certain chair in the couch. Like they know. Sit down and then
Face to face. We're going to face to face.
he's like on his phone and I'm like, no, we are talking.
And when you hear a 5-year-old,
Oh, mama, make
go,
it quick. I know.
I know, he's
even,
5.
Yeah, even he realizes.
We got to
you know,
remind you guys, Jaden's 5.
Yeah,
He's 5. Kindergartners. What did they do really wrong in kindergarten? Eat Play-Doh.
No.
What do they do?
They are so smart.
Yeah.
Do they throw stuff at each other in the
They will-
sandbox?
They will argue with you like you're a.
About what?
like you would think Jayden had a 9-to-5 job and paid some of the bills in the house.
Really? Is he a
Like, he
political
cooked
figure?
dinner.
He knows like everything about everything.
We sit down and we talk about the presidents and current events and stuff. You would think that this kid, but he's not. He's a kid, you know. But
Yeah.
I will say that he's advanced for his age.
Wow.
He really is. Because
Right.
He's big.
He has physical abilities that it's not common. And as a result of that, he recognizes it. And what's normal to him, he don't understand why kids his age can't do some of the things that he do because it's all he knows. He didn't, you know, he was just brought up that way.
Right.
So for him, it's normal. He couldn't, like, when he was swimming at 2 years old and 11 feet, he couldn't understand why a 5-year-old couldn't swim. It didn't make sense to him. He thought, hey, I'm 2, I can swim. Everybody 2-year-olds
That
swims.
was me too. I was like that.
So, you know, he thinks that he's, I don't want to say he thinks he's grown, but
He thinks he's
he
a
could be
quick learner.
testy. He could be testy.
He thinks he's an
sometimes.
Olympic swimmer.
He thinks
That's pretty cool though.
he thinks he's a genius.
That's really
Does
cool.
does he already have an ego?
Yeah, he does. And but I'll tell
Where
you
does he
what,
get that
has a
from?
Fantastic. I think I don't know.
His mom.
His grandma. Mom.
Good thing I don't know these people. Yeah, they're like, hey, that Maura girl, she needs to keep her Irish
He's
face
learning
quiet.
it from those electronics or something.
Right?
Yeah.
He's
YouTube.
picking it up from other kids in school.
Right. So when I was in Massachusetts, I had my housing, you know, so we were in like a, you know, it was mainly like a Section 8 apartment complex outside Boston, but it was nice, you know, and Michael used to come home from school in elementary school and say, Mama, can we get a house someday? Because all my friends, you know, are upper middle class. Like, he didn't say it like that, but they all have houses, Mama, and Range Rovers and stuff. You know, like, when are we going to get that stuff? And then we moved to Florida. We had an apartment for a year, and because of recovery, we got a house. And I remember we were sitting down having dinner like 2 months after we moved in. And we were sitting there and Michael says, oh, Mom, I'm so happy. I said, why? He's like, well, I always wanted a house, but it's because of your recovery that we have it. So now, like, when people overdose and die that we're friends with or get COVID or whatever, or in the hospital, he'll hear me on the phone or talking to someone, and then he'll be like, oh my God, Mama, who is it now? And he's affected directly from a result of coming to conventions with me. He's been brought up since I was pregnant with him, coming to meetings, meeting people in the program. We don't have any family here in Florida, so he is connected to you guys, which is really cool. So, you know, at some point, I think everyone's parenting style is a little bit different. So I had, you know, Owen to help me, so he didn't have to come to a ton of meetings, but it's pretty cool that my son, like, knows not to eat anything weird at school. He'll text me and said, they're giving out free soda today, Mama, outside school, and I just want to let you know that they're not open or anything, so I'm going to have one.
Right.
I was
Sharp
like,
kid.
wow.
Yeah, pretty sharp kid.
Because what were you like growing up in school? Did you drink or do drugs back then?
Well,
Like
not elementary school.
Like high school?
Yeah, I was pregnant after 9th grade. I was pregnant after 9th grade. Middle school is when I started to use. I started using, smoking weed. I think I dabbled in other harder things, and what happened was I remember like I was like, oh, I'm definitely different than these people. Like they're that is plenty for them, right? And they stop and they're done, and it just never was for me. I can remember high school. I think I was tripping on acid. Oh God, don't ever go to school on acid. It's just horrible. It was a bad idea. We're like, yeah, I think it was shrooms. Yeah, we ate some shrooms. Went to school, and it was not fun. It was awful. And I ended up puking and spending half the day in the bathroom. It was awful. And then I had to walk home sick. And I think, before that, prior to me using, though, I was a really good student. Like, I always got along with my teachers. Like, I wanted to be good at school. Like, I really, anything I played softball for 10 years, and I was also part of a dance group for 6 years. Like, not a cheerleader, but a dance group. It was a dance group. And I really liked to do good at everything I did, no matter what it was. And school was one of them, and I really liked it. But I also wanted to be cool, and I wanted to be accepted from people. I wanted to be popular. I wanted to be, I never really was in one group of people, though. I seemed to, like, have friends in all different groups. Like, I was one of those people. And I could just be whoever, at whatever group I was hanging out with, I could just go with them, whatever it was. If they were wearing certain type of clothing, I could do that too. It didn't matter. I didn't really have my own identity. But in high school, I had already been really bad. And I was in a relationship. I lost my virginity, and I got pregnant the first time I had sex. And in the state of Florida, when you're 15 years old and you're pregnant, your parents get to choose whether you keep the child or not. And so, well, if you decided that you wanted to keep it, your parents could also say no or yay, right? So my parents were like, you're going to have that child. So summer of 9th grade, I was pregnant. By the time I was in 10th grade, I had my daughter, and she was coming to high school with me, and she was in daycare while I was in school. When I had her, though, I stopped doing what I was doing, and I was scared because I was a mom and I was young, and I really had no idea what I was doing, none whatsoever. I just knew I could do it better than my mom did, right? I thought I can do this, I think I know everything, right? I think I know how hard it is to be an adult and to be responsible and have a child. Like, I thought I knew it all. So anyways, I ended up, I had to bring her to school. I wanted to get my GED, and I scored really high. I mean, I left high school with like a 4.1, and I immediately went into college, and I did 2 years of college before I finally started to use again. And then it went downhill from there. But school was hard for me to like navigate through school, and I didn't have an identity. And when I was pregnant, I actually got into a fight with another gentleman in the high school because he called me a whore. I was made fun of for that. So, well, when I was in high school, it wasn't popular to, there weren't pregnant women, in my high school. I actually was zoned for Seminole High School, and I had to go to a different one because they didn't accept me pregnant. So now they do. I think everywhere, but they didn't then. So it was really hard for me. I didn't fit in anywhere. I wasn't popular. I had good grades, but when I went home with my good grades, my parents didn't really care because they were alcoholics and addicts also. So school was kind of rough for me.
Well, thanks for being so honest about that. And we're going to have to wrap up this episode, but would you guys be open to a third one?
Yeah.
In a couple of months.
Always.
Ernest is like, yes. You're not as nervous anymore, huh?
Not normally at the end.
We just have a lot more to talk about. You guys are good. You're great parents. Awesome support in recovery, and I appreciate you guys coming back on the show.
Thank you for having us, Maura.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Have a good night.